start the week off in a rather chaotic looking position. With white to move, we have a queen and a rook versus basically the rest of the world. Black has tons of pieces, and notice our light square grief here, creating a hole by pushing this pawn. At some point, the queen and the bishop are taking advantage of the space that pawn left behind, and if we make some kind of random move, well, mate in one is in the air. So this doesn't look good, and if we start looking for ways to check the king, we might see a number of interesting moves, but there's so much going on here. Let me try to simplify this pattern like this. Once we remove all the noise, we have the key attacking pieces, the queen and the rook. And I've heard this described as the railroad mate, when a queen and a rook is sandwiching between them, the king, and basically like railroad cars just barreling down the tracks. We can play rook e7, force the king to d8, no way to stop it, right? Because the king can't capture the rook because our queen is guarding it, so that's not legal. King is forced here, and now we barrel down the tracks. The rook guards the queen on c7, delivering a beautiful mate. So going back to the story, this is the puzzle at hand. Notice the queen and the rook are kind of chugging down the tracks here together, and there's the king between the two pieces. Now, rook b6 is going to be our winning idea, but I do want to point out, what about queen b6? Nearly mate, but the problem is the king is able to move to c4 and sort of run away. And although the king does feel rather exposed, we don't have an easy check. For example, rook d4 looks great, but look out for the bishop there. So going back, when we look at our options, you have, in this case, the queen as the attacker, attacking the king, and the rook is the defender. So when you have an attacker and a defender, always reverse the roles. Here, by having the queen attack, the king has multiple options, and it doesn't quite work out in our favor. Flip the script. What if the queen is the defender, supporting the rook, and all of a sudden, there's our railroad mate. We attack the king, unable to capture our rook there thanks to the queen, and so the king is forced to either a4 or a5. The puzzle move to a5 doesn't matter because we're going to play the same move. Queen supported by the rook, queen takes knight, delivering mate. So just a fun little example of what the railroad mate is. Queen and rook sandwiching the king. Rook attacks, queen supports, then the queen barrels down the tracks, supported by the rook delivering mate. And here we had a little bit of a sideways railroad by playing rook b6, forcing the king to a5, and then
Please do subscribe.